The elevator stopped at the 12th floor. It always stopped at the 12th floor. And yet, the building had 13. When Emily Carter moved to Chicago, she thought the hardest part would be leaving her old life behind. A new job, a new apartment, a new city filled with strangers. She never imagined the hardest part would be surviving the night. The building was called Ravenwood Heights, a tall, gray concrete tower standing alone at the edge of downtown Chicago. It wasn't modern, but it wasn't ancient either. Built in the late 1970s, it had narrow hallways, dim yellow lights, and an elevator that groaned like it was tired of carrying secrets. The rent was cheap, too cheap. Emily should have known that was the first red flag. The first warning. The day she moved in, the landlord, Mr. Green, handed her the keys with shaking hands. Apartment 1208, he said, forcing a smile. Top occupied floor. Occupied? Emily asked. He hesitated. Yes. Well, technically. She frowned. What's above it? Maintenance floor, he answered quickly. Not accessible. That night, as Emily unpacked her boxes, she heard footsteps above her ceiling. Slow, dragging, like someone walking barefoot across concrete. She looked up, but Mr. Green said no one lived above her. The missing button. 2 days later, she noticed something strange in the elevator. The buttons read 1, 2, 3, 11, 12. There was number 13. That wasn't unusual. Many American buildings skipped the 13th floor because of superstition. But when the elevator doors closed, she felt it move higher than 12. The digital display glitched. For half a second, it flashed 13, then went dark. The elevator shook violently. The lights flickered, and the doors opened, but she wasn't on 12 anymore. The hallway looked different, longer, darker. The wallpaper was peeling, stained with something that looked disturbingly like handprints. And at the far end of the hallway, a door slowly creaked open. Emily's heart pounded. She slammed the close door button repeatedly. The doors shut just as a shadow stepped into the hallway. When she returned to 12, everything looked normal. Clean carpet, bright lights, no peeling wallpaper, no open door. Had she imagined it? The neighbor. On the third night, she met her neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, an older woman in her late 60s with sharp eyes and a permanent look of fear. "You're new, Mrs. Alvarez whispered, as if someone might hear. "Yes," Emily smiled politely. "Just moved in." Mrs. Alvarez leaned closer. "Don't use the elevator after midnight." Emily laughed nervously. "Why?" "Because that's when it goes to places it shouldn't." A chill ran down Emily's spine. Before she could ask more, Mrs. Alvarez shut her door quickly. Locks clicking, deadbolts sliding, as if she was protecting herself from something outside or above. 12:47 a.m. Emily woke up to a sound. Ding. The elevator. She checked her phone. 12:47 a.m. She told herself it was nothing. Someone coming home late. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Not above her. Outside her apartment door. Slow. Dragging. Stopping right in front of her room. She held her breath. The shadow under her door darkened, as if someone was standing directly outside, waiting. A soft whisper slid through the hallway. "Emily." Her blood turned cold. She never told anyone in the building her name. The security footage. The next morning, Emily went to the front desk. "I think someone was outside my apartment last night," she told Mr. Green. He looked pale. "We don't get many complaints. Can I see the security footage?" He hesitated too long. Finally, he pulled up the camera feed from 12th floor hallway. 12:45 a.m. The hallway was empty. 12:46 a.m. Empty. 12:47 a.m. Emily watched herself, standing outside her own apartment. Barefoot, hair covering her face, smiling. Her body went numb. "That's not me," she whispered. The footage showed the other Emily slowly lean toward her own door and whisper something, then walk calmly toward the elevator. At 12:48 a.m., the elevator doors opened. No one inside, but the camera glitched, and for a single frame, it showed the history. That afternoon, Emily searched the building online. Ravenwood Heights, Chicago. One article popped up from 1983. Fire tragedy on 13th floor claims 27 lives. The article explained that during construction, the 13th floor caught fire. Official reports said it was an electrical malfunction, but witnesses claimed something else. They said residents heard screaming before the fire even started. They said the fire burned downward, not upward. They said the flames began in the elevator shaft. After the incident, the 13th floor was sealed permanently, removed from building maps, erased, but not destroyed. The second encounter. That night, Emily avoided the elevator. She took the stairs, but when she reached the 12th floor landing, there was another staircase, leading upward, a door she had never seen before, marked only with a small metal plate. 13. Her chest tightened. The hallway lights flickered. Behind her, the stairwell door slammed shut. She was trapped between floors. Slowly, the door to 13 creaked open. A wave of cold air rushed down the stairs, and she heard it again. Bare feet on concrete, dragging closer. A voice echoed softly in the darkness. "You left us." Multiple voices joined in. "You left us." The lights went out. Total darkness. Then, a hand grabbed her ankle. Ice cold. Burned skin cold. Emily screamed and kicked free, tumbling down the stairs. When she hit the 12th floor landing, the lights snapped back on. The staircase to 13 was gone. Just a blank concrete wall, as if it never existed. The final scene of part 1. Back in her apartment, shaking, Emily locked every bolt. She packed a bag. She was leaving, tonight. As she zipped her suitcase, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice whispered, "Why are you trying to leave?" Her apartment lights shut off. The television turned on by itself. Static filled the screen. Then a live video feed appeared. It showed her, standing behind her, slowly raising a burnt, blackened hand. The voice on the phone laughed softly. "You're already on the 13th floor." The call disconnected. Emily turned around, and the apartment walls were no longer painted white. They were blackened, burned, covered in handprints. And outside her window, there was no Chicago skyline. Only darkness, and flames rising upward. Emily couldn't breathe. The walls around her were no longer her apartment. The paint had peeled away, revealing blackened concrete beneath. The smell of smoke filled her lungs, thick, suffocating, real. "This isn't real," she whispered. But the burnt handprints on the wall were still warm. Behind her, the television flickered violently. The screen showed security footage, not from last night. From 1983, flames tearing through a hallway. People running, screaming, and at the end of the corridor, a little girl standing perfectly still, watching the fire instead of running from it. The girl slowly turned her head toward the camera. Her face was burned beyond recognition. And she smiled. The truth about the fire. The image zoomed in by itself. A headline flashed across the TV screen. "Fire not accidental. Investigation closed without explanation." Emily grabbed the remote. It wouldn't turn off. The little girl on the screen opened her mouth and spoke. "You live where we died." Suddenly, the apartment door slammed shut. The locks twisted on their own. Click, click, click. Emily ran toward the door, pulling desperately. It wouldn't move. The air grew hotter, the smoke thicker, and then she heard them. Footsteps. Dozens of them, outside the hallway, dragging, surrounding her apartment. The mirror. Emily stumbled into the bathroom, coughing. She splashed water on her face and looked up. The mirror didn't show her reflection. It showed the burned hallway of the 13th floor. And behind her reflection, they were standing there, charred figures, skin cracked like broken porcelain, eyes glowing faint orange like dying embers. One of them stepped closer. It was the little girl from the television. "You weren't invited," the girl whispered. Emily spun around. No one there, but in the mirror, the girl was inches away from her, burned fingers reaching forward. Then, the mirror cracked. A long fracture split straight through the reflection. Blood dripped from the crack, but not from the mirror. From Emily's forehead. She touched it. Her fingers came back red. The elevator moves again. A loud metallic groan echoed through the building. The elevator. Even though she was inside her apartment, she could hear it moving. Up, down, like it was searching. Then, ding, right outside her door, something heavy dragged across the hallway floor. A body, or many bodies. The whispering started again. "You left us. You replaced us. You live where we burned. Emily backed away from the door slowly. The doorknob began to turn. Slowly, creaking. But she had locked it. The wood around the knob began to blacken, burning from the inside out. A small crack formed. Through the crack, she saw flames, and silhouettes moving inside them. The hidden survivor. Suddenly, her phone vibrated again. Unknown number. Her hands shook as she answered. A different voice this time. Older. Male. You're on 13 now, the man whispered urgently. Who is this? Emily cried. I survived the fire, he said. I was the only one. Her heart pounded. How? I wasn't on the floor when it started. I was in the elevator. The line crackled. They didn't burn. Emily froze. What do you mean? They were already dead. The call cut out. Static. Then a single message appeared on her screen. They were sealed in before the fire began. The secret of floor 13. Suddenly, the walls around her shifted again. The burning apartment dissolved. She was no longer in her room. She was standing in the hallway she saw before. The real 13th floor. Long, dark, endless. Doors on both sides, all slightly open. Inside each room, charred shadows moved slowly, watching her. The carpet was soaked, not with water, with something thick and dark. At the end of the hallway stood the elevator. Doors open. Inside, the control panel glowed. Every button was melted, except one. A whisper echoed behind her ear. You can't go back. She turned. The little burned girl stood there again. But this time, her face wasn't angry. It was sad. They locked us in, she said softly. They poured gasoline. They started the fire from below. Emily's blood ran cold. Why? The girl's voice trembled. Insurance. Suddenly, the hallway doors slammed shut one by one. Boom, boom, boom. The walls began closing in. The flames started again. But this time, they were rising from the floor beneath her feet. The elevator doors began to close. Slowly, Emily ran. She dove inside just as the flames swallowed the hallway. The doors shut. Darkness. Silence. The elevator began descending. Slow. Too slow. The floor numbers lit up. Then suddenly, the elevator stopped violently. Between floors, the lights flickered off. Emergency red light turned on. And she was no longer alone. Standing in the corner of the elevator was another version of her. Burned. Skin cracked. Eyes glowing faint orange. The burned Emily tilted her head. You shouldn't have looked. The elevator cable snapped. The car dropped. Screaming metal. Total darkness. Final scene. Part 2. Emily gasped and woke up. She was lying in her bed. Morning sunlight streaming through her window. Her apartment looked normal. Clean walls. No burn marks. No smoke. She sat up slowly. It was just a nightmare. Her phone buzzed. One notification. Security alert 12:47 a.m. Attached was a video clip. She opened it. The footage showed her apartment hallway. At 12:47 a.m., the elevator doors opened. Smoke rolled out, and Emily stepped out, burned, smiling. Then she looked directly at the camera and whispered, "See you tonight." The video ended. A new notification appeared. Welcome to floor 13. Emily didn't scream this time. She just stared at the message on her phone. Welcome to floor 13. Morning sunlight filled her apartment. Birds chirped outside. Cars moved below. Everything looked normal. But she knew better now. At exactly 12:47 a.m., the building would change again. And this time, she wouldn't wake up. The basement. All day, Emily searched for answers. If the fire was started from below, then the truth was in the basement. Ravenwood Heights had a basement level marked, storage and boiler room. Tenants rarely went there. Mr. Green always kept it locked. But when Emily reached the basement door that afternoon, it was slightly open. The hallway smelled damp, rust, oil, something old. The lights flickered as she stepped inside. At the end of the basement corridor stood the elevator shaft. Exposed, cold air flowing upward from it. She walked closer. On the wall beside the shaft was a faded metal plaque. Ravenwood Heights. Renovated 1984. Renovated, not rebuilt. That meant the structure of the 13th floor was still intact. Just hidden. The hidden room. Behind the boiler, Emily found something strange. A second door, sealed with heavy chains. But the chains were broken. Recently, Her heart pounded as she pushed the door open. Inside was a small concrete room. Old filing cabinets lined the walls. Dust covered everything. She pulled open the top drawer. Inside were folders labeled, "Tenant Relocation, Floor 13." But the documents weren't relocation forms. They were death certificates, dated 2 days before the fire. Emily's hands trembled. The tenants of Floor 13 had already been declared dead before the fire officially happened. That meant, the fire was staged, the deaths were planned, and the building never intended to save them. Mr. Green's secret. Curiosity can be dangerous. Emily froze. Mr. Green stood in the doorway. No friendly smile this time. Just cold eyes. "You shouldn't dig into the past," he said quietly. "You knew," Emily whispered. "You knew about the fire." He sighed heavily. "My father owned this building in 1983. Emily's stomach dropped. He was drowning in debt. Insurance was the only way out. The basement lights flickered violently. They sealed the tenants in during the night, Mr. Green continued. Pumped gas through the ventilation. Emily backed away. They were dead before the flames ever touched them. A low rumble echoed through the building. The walls trembled. "You think it ended there?" He whispered. "You think they stayed dead?" The temperature dropped instantly. Behind Mr. Green, the darkness in the hallway began to move. Shadows stretching unnaturally long. "They don't want justice," he said quietly. "They want replacement." Emily's blood ran cold. "What does that mean?" Mr. Green looked at her with something almost like pity. "Every few years, someone new moves into 1208. The chosen." The basement door slammed shut behind her. The lights exploded. Total darkness. Then, the whispers returned. Louder. Closer. "You live where we died. You breathe where we burned." The elevator in the basement screeched to life. Doors sliding open. Smoke pouring out. Mr. Green stepped backward into the shadows. "They're calling you," he said softly. "Why me?" Emily screamed. From inside the elevator, the burned little girl stepped forward. Her charred skin cracked with each movement. "You signed," she whispered. Emily shook her head. "Signed what?" The girl tilted her head slowly. "The lease." The filing cabinet behind Emily burst open. Paper flying everywhere. One document floated down in front of her face. Her lease agreement. Signed. But below her signature, in faded ink, was another name. Emily Carter. Deceased 1983. Her vision blurred. "No. That's not possible." The girl's voice echoed unnaturally. "You were here before." The truth about Emily. Suddenly, memories flashed through her mind. Flames. Smoke. Screaming. A hallway filled with heat. She saw herself. Not in 2026. But in 1983. Standing on the 13th floor. Holding someone's hand. A child's hand. The burned girl. "You promised not to leave me," the girl whispered. Emily's knees buckled. She remembered now. She had tried to escape during the fire. She ran toward the elevator. Left the girl behind. The doors closed, and the flames consumed the floor. The guilt, the fear, the betrayal. It never died, and neither did they. Midnight returns. The digital clock on the basement wall flickered. 12:46 a.m. Smoke began filling the room. The floor beneath them cracked open, revealing the burning hallway of floor 13. It was rising, like it was coming back into existence. The elevator doors slammed open again. Inside, dozens of charred figures stood silently, waiting. The little girl reached out her burned hand. "Stay this time." Behind Emily, Mr. Green tried to run, but shadowy hands dragged him into the darkness. His screams echoed up the elevator shaft. Then silence. 12:47 a.m. The entire building shook violently. Above ground, tenants screamed as walls cracked and alarms blared. But on the 12th floor, there was number 12 anymore. The hallway numbers shifted. 12 became 13. The hidden floor returned. Final scene. The new floor 13. Morning came. Fire trucks surrounded Ravenwood Heights. Smoke poured from the top floor windows. Reporters gathered outside. Another unexplained fire. One of them said into a camera. Officials claim no residents were registered on the 13th floor. Inside the building, the hallway looked clean. Fresh paint. New carpet. Apartment 1308 stood quietly at the end. Inside, Emily stood at the window. Unburned. Calm. Watching the city. Her reflection in the glass flickered. For a moment, her face was charred, eyes glowing faint orange. Behind her stood dozens of silent shadows. The little girl held her hand. A moving truck pulled up outside. A new tenant stepped out. A young man holding a lease agreement. Apartment 1208. Emily smiled softly, and whispered, "Welcome home." The elevator dinged, and this time, the button for 13 was glowing red.